Okay, we had a question in class regarding the article on, it's called Mitigating a Chilly Climate. This is what it was. If you recall the picture from class, or the image from class, social belonging and GPA. And what they basically found was that in majors like engineering, women can do just as well as men in those courses, but when they first go to those classes, they feel this like chilly climate that maybe they don't quite belong. And so what they did from our textbook is there was a treatment where they basically said at the beginning of the semester, you do belong here, you deserve to be here. And women did perform better after that treatment. So if you see their GPA with no treatment, 65%, and then their GPA after that treatment of the belonging prompt, essentially, belonging prime, they got over 75, 76, 77, somewhere in there. And that's great. There's a good positive side and a negative side to it. The positive side is, hey, we can get those grades to be about equal. The negative side is they're not equal to begin with, which, that would be the hope. But through social psychology, we can do these applied things and make things better for people. That being said, when you're going through a textbook, so like this is an intro class, essentially, intro to social psychology. At the undergraduate level, it's like a 3,000 level course, but it's not advanced social psych. It's not a seminar. It's not a lab. It's not a graduate level course in social psychology. So a lot of the articles that we go through in the undergraduate class, kind of like the intro psych class, the intro social psych class, we don't go super in depth into the articles. Some we will, but some we don't. And so we'll have an image like this from the book, and we just kind of take the textbook author's word for it if we haven't actually read that article. You would read the full article in a graduate level for sure, but even like in my seminar classes, I have people read all the articles that we discuss. In any case, this is what the textbook had for that article, and the actual question was, what? It was a very benign question that the student asked was, what's the name of the article? And this is the name of the article. So 2 brief interventions to mitigate a chilly climate. You could look this up. I actually have posted in the modules if you want to look it up. A couple of caveats to this study. Now, I went and looked at it myself as well. 2 different things. One, they didn't have just one prime or condition. They had their controlled condition and experimental condition, but they actually had 2 experimental conditions. And so the social belonging intervention, this is directly from that article, is that women don't feel as at home in like engineering programs, majors that don't have as many women in them as compared to men. And so they were basically like, hey, you're going to be taken seriously, you're going to be treated with respect, and you will fit into your peer culture. And so that was the social belonging intervention, as we've seen, that did work. They also had an affirmation training intervention. Affirmation training, both men and women learn to incorporate broader aspects of their self-identity into their daily lives to manage stress and to find balance. So it highlighted 6 values identified in the pilot testing most relevant to this population, which was the relationship with friends, family, leading a healthy lifestyle, learning for the sake of learning, that's nice, religious and spiritual values, achieving financial freedom, that's great, and making a difference in the world, perfect. So these are affirmation training. You kind of think about those 6 different values that you think are important, and you think about those. So in the actual article, so they don't talk about the affirmation training in our textbook, but in the actual article, this is male-dominated majors like engineering, where there's less than 20% are women in those majors. In the control condition, so this is men, control condition, women, control condition, and then you can see it's their grades, their GPA. For men, 74, 73, somewhere in there. For women, this is the control condition, 65. Probably a significant difference between the biological sexes there. In the social belonging intervention, the one that we talked about in class, even men went up. So the men went up to 77, 78, but women also went up to just almost the level that men were. So that's great. Again, showing that through kind of like applied social psych, we can make people's lives better. And the affirmation training worked as well. So you can see that women's GPA was just about the same level as with the social belonging intervention, same for men. Most importantly, compared to the control group, both social belonging and affirmation training, good, works out. They did look at some other things too. So this is for the male-dominated majors, all of these. And in the control condition, for example, women perceived the importance of daily negative events more strongly than men did in the control condition. Their confidence was lower. Women's confidence was lower in the control condition, and women's stability of their self-esteem was lower than men in the control conditions. But if we do that social belonging and the affirmation training, they come up to basically the same level as men in all of those categories. Maybe a little bit lower in the self-esteem. So from the textbook, they only listed the 1 condition. They didn't list the 2 conditions. Fine. However, there was an entire another condition going on as well, where they discussed gender diverse majors where more than 20% were women. So like if you think of psychology, I don't know what the exact numbers are, but 60, 70% maybe are women that are in psychology, have their undergraduate majors psychology. In the control condition for the male-dominated, men had higher GPA than women. But then when we look at the gender diverse, women do have higher grades in the control condition compared to men. So in a field like psychology, women are going to have a better GPA than men. And there could be a million reasons for that. I'm not going to go into that with this one. With the social belonging intervention, their grades level out. So men and women are about the same. So that means that men went up, maybe not significantly so, but they did go up. Women went down, which is kind of strange. But for me, the weirdest part of this study, the affirmation training intervention. Look where women's scores went in a field like psychology. It went down to about a 70. They were at 75. They were at about 78, and they're going to go down to maybe like 68. They're going to lose like 10 points off of their GPA when they do that affirmation training, where they're thinking about those 6 important values. Completely flipped from the male-dominated majors. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And it's like also, it's kind of scary. We don't want to cause people's GPAs to go down. So this affirmation training, is it causing women's grades to go down in these gender diverse majors? So yeah, my question, affirmations in the gender diverse fields causes women's grades to go down. How do they explain this? And so I'm looking through the discussion in the article and I'm not quite finding it. And I'm like, okay, I'm in a little bit of a hurry. So let's speed this up. Let's ask ChatGPT. So ChatGPT, did they explain this in the article? And ChatGPT's like, yes, of course they did. And it gives me these 3 different reasons that there's no pressing threat in the diverse majors. So women don't feel that experience of not belonging. And when you bring it up, it's that intervention's unnecessary and it causes other issues. I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe. A possible distraction or overemphasis on gender. So when the threat's low, focusing on affirmations might unintentionally draw attention to identity / your gender. And this can interfere with performance by creating identity salience rather than reducing it. It's like, okay, I guess maybe, possibly. The last one, intervention as a mismatch. So the affirmations are just unhelpful and even counterproductive in contexts where women already felt integrated or supported. It's like, okay, I don't know. That seems, you're making a lot of assumptions is what I was kind of thinking. ChatGPT said, do you want me to pull the exact passage from the article? And I was like, yeah, because I don't see it. I'd love to see more about this. So this is what ChatGPT says. Hold on, don't write this down. This is what ChatGPT said. In gender diverse majors, the affirmation training intervention had a small negative effect on women's grades. We interpret this as reflecting a mismatch, maybe it'd be better, between the intervention and the context. In settings where women's representation was high and the psychological threat was lower, the affirmation may have made adversity more salient or simply been unnecessary, thus producing no benefits or perhaps modest costs. It's like, okay, well, when you have a publication in the discussion, you kind of, I don't want to say grasp at straws, but you just kind of throw some stuff out there and hope maybe this is what happened. I don't know. Because this finding here is weird when we see that difference between men and women in the affirmation in that gender diverse majors. So, if they're kind of like grasping at straws, great. However, so I see that ChatGPT says this is directly from the article. I'm like, okay, I need to actually see this. And so this is key. If you're going to use ChatGPT to do stuff, you actually have to have the ability and the desire and the drive to make sure that it's true and that it's accurate. And so I'm like, this is not in the paper. I'm looking all through it. Does this passage exist in the article? Nope, it does not. ChatGPT completely made that up. It was a total hallucination. I'm like, ChatGPT, this is not in this paper. It's like, oh, you're right. I don't know how many times I've heard this from ChatGPT when I'm like, you're totally wrong. This is not here. And it's like, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I got that from some other place, which is what happened in this case. What's actually in the paper, in the results part, gender diverse majors, they earned lower GPAs in the affirmation training than in the control. This pattern was not predicted and not evident on any other outcomes. We interpret it cautiously. Further research should investigate it. And that's definitely true. So all that stuff that was in the discussion, I was like, they kind of jump into the conclusions there. But what they've actually said in the paper was, we don't know why this happened, and maybe it won't happen again. We should have some future research to look into that. So all of the information that ChatGPT, it made it up. It hallucinated what it came up with, those sentiments actually come from these two articles, especially this one. So this is the same author about 3 years later, Walton. So Wise Interventions, Psychological Remedies for Social and Personal Problems. And they discuss more about how, they do in this one too, about how affirmations and interventions can backfire and things to do. And so it's like, okay, fine. If that's in those articles later on when they're done more research, great. But yeah, again, in your undergraduate social psych class, you're probably not going to go through every article like this. But if you have time and you're interested in that area, you should definitely go get the original article, because it might not be presented exactly as it is in the textbook, like in this case. Again, there was an extra condition. There was an extra condition in the gender male-dominated fields, but then they also had this whole gender diverse thing that wasn't even discussed, and the whole affirmations. And so if you have time, go look at those original articles, because you might find things that are not in the textbook. And also, do not trust AI yet. You can use it as a tool to help you find things and to help refine your thinking. You can definitely help it for things like grammar and whatnot, but don't completely trust it, because it is making stuff up. And I mean, it was just clear as day that it thinks that this statement was in the article when it actually wasn't. So in any case, that's a little look into social psychology and this article and the hallucinations that ChatGPT is doing. So yeah, if you get time, look into some of these actual articles and see if you can find some more things like this. And if you actually have some hallucinations from ChatGPT, I think we'd probably like to hear about those in class. All right. Thank you very much for listening.